Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to be talking about how to write your best script ever. Now, there's lots of things I could give you on this, lots of different techniques and those kinds of things. I'm going to point to the things I think will first be the easiest for you to implement, and second, will be the more advanced stuff that you can take a look at and see if maybe it's something you want to do in order to make a difference in your screenplay. But first, let's talk about what I call the evolution of a screenwriter. And this is, how does somebody go from being good, from having written a certain amount of scripts, to actually consistently getting movies produced? So you'll see right over here in the bottom left-hand corner, wherever you are, no matter how many scripts you've written, put yourself right there and just decide, okay, that's where I'm starting. If you've written one script, if you've written none, or if you've written 10 screenplays, you're still kind of starting over here in this corner. Now, the reason I'm asking you to start there is because we're going to go on a journey that's going to go all the way to the point of consistently getting movies produced. So go with me on this. So here we go. Right down here in the very bottom, it says A, take action. Now, that's one of the big things that has to happen. It's not just about writing scripts. It's about stepping out into the industry and taking action. But if you want that action to be successful, you need to also do this other thing, which is right over on the left-hand side. It says B, elevate your skills. And this is where I think a lot of people miss the point. It's like, if you're going to step into this industry, if you're going to try to get a manager or an agent or get your script optioned, that takes higher level skills than just writing a script by yourself and keeping it to yourself, right? You'll probably notice when you go out and get feedback, people come back to you and ask you to make improvements to the script, or they give you ideas for it or something like that. A lot of times that has you see things you hadn't seen before, and that helps improve the script. It is just as easy, if not easier, to improve a script if you elevate your skills. When you discover a new skill, like if you discover a new way to create characters, or you discover a way to build more subtext into scenes, the moment you have that skill, you can go back to a script you've previously written and probably see 10, 15 different places you could improve it, right? And you know, as soon as you understand that skill, you now know what to do. There's a whole series of different skills that can help you get to the top. All right, let's go to C, which is down here, right towards the bottom at the beginning of this journey. Probably the stage for most people. The next thing that's in front of them is to do well in contest. And again, if you are, like, let's say you're placing at a quarterfinalist level, then what it takes to improve and to get to the next level where you're doing semifinalist or finalist, or maybe even winner, what it takes to do that usually is to do what you can to improve that script. But also at the same time, I would do everything I could to improve who you are as a writer. Because again, elevating who you are as a writer, elevating your skill levels, makes it much easier to win contest and move to the next step. So here's the next step up. D, you're optioned. And congratulations on that. You deserve that success. If you've gotten to that point, that means that you have done what it took to make sure that your screenplay was something a producer would be interested in, and got a producer to say yes and sign the contract. That's amazing. From there, then it's about getting that movie made. And this is another level of skill, by the way, because going from option to getting the movie made, there's a whole bunch of things that could happen along the way. including the producer coming back and asking you to make changes to the script. And that'll happen, by the way, if you get your script optioned. If a producer doesn't ask you to make some kind of improvements or to do something to increase the chance that they can produce it, very likely I'd be checking to see, is that a real producer? And this is just a safety tip. We've had over 500 of our writers who have either been optioned or got an agent or a manager. But the few times when somebody came back to me and said, hey, the producer loves my script the way it is, they don't want a single change. Every single one of those times, it turned out that producer was a fake. So please know, when a producer is trying to get a movie made, there are going to be things that are required to be changed in the script. Sometimes it'll be because they have a different budget than what you originally thought. Maybe they have a higher budget, and that means you can do more things in the script. Maybe they have a lower budget, and that means you need to change some things. But as a writer, you need to be able to make those adjustments, and doing so will get your movie made. Then it's about getting an agent or manager. And either one of those is okay. Depends on what you're looking for. If you are just looking for someone who all they do is sell scripts, negotiate deals, and that kind of thing, that's an agent. If you are looking for someone who will guide you through your career and who will read every one of your scripts that you bring in from that point on, and give you feedback and coach you and all of those kinds of things, that's a manager. Either one can get you into this industry in a much, much bigger way. But I will tell you, the moment you make that jump, you're going to need a set of skills to be able to write at a professional level consistently. And it's absolutely possible. If you've written a couple of screenplays already, it is absolutely possible for you to elevate your skills to that level and have the success. So this becomes the question. What's your plan? Right? And be thinking about that as we're talking today. What is your plan that will move you up and to the right over here to be able to make these things happen? And again, I'll tell you, we've had a lot of writers who came in and said, hey, I'm just going to give it a shot. I don't know if it'll work, who ended up getting optioned, some of which had movies made, some of which got agents and managers. And some of them didn't think they could do it until we got them to the particular skill level that had them be able to show up as complete professionals. Now, let's just jump into this. Here's what we're going to do today. First, I'm going to talk about some easy places to improve your script right now. Then I will take you through some advanced strategies that are some things that could make a big difference for you. And then we'll talk about the upcoming class called Writing Incredible Movies. That is the most up-to-date model there is for how to write the kind of scripts that give you a real chance inside this industry today, not 10 years ago, not 20 years ago. There's a lot of classes out there that are still from 20 years ago, and they don't really understand what's changed in the market since the streamers have happened. So this is the most up-to-date class that we have. Okay, let's jump into this. Easy places to improve your script right now. And these really are easy. First, check your opening scene. And this is something that I learned 10 years ago. I was interacting with a bunch of producers, and they said if they don't know the writer, they read the first scene, and by the end of the first scene, they've already made a decision. Some of them said by the end of the first page, they already know if you're a pro or not, right? So that opening scene is a chance for you to make sure that, you know, you're really giving them your best. And let me say it this way: write your whole script, come back to this scene after you think everything in your script is as good as it can be, and then do everything you can to rewrite this scene and make it the best writing you've ever done in your lifetime. It makes that much of a difference. Okay, what you need, and take a look right now, if you look at your opening scene, you need these three things. You need amazing dialogue, you need a character in action, and you need a challenging situation. Now, let me contrast this just for a moment. I see a lot of opening scenes that are two characters sitting in a diner or sitting at the dinner table or sitting in a car or walking, and all they're doing is talking about themselves. They're telling their backstory. They're telling something else. They're having some kind of conversation that has very little conflict in it, but it doesn't have almost any of these three things. So this is, I just want you to check. I'm not talking about anybody in particular because I haven't looked at your script. But first, do you have amazing dialogue on that opening page, right? If they just look at that opening page, if the producer does, and they only look at the 3 lines of dialogue you had there, and let's say they make a decision at the end of that, is that dialogue good enough for them to say yes? Right? And let me tell you 2 things that I've done that have really made a difference before. One of them is, if there's any prep dialogue like, hi, how are you? Or anything like that, or any generic dialogue, I just ask the writer first, do we need that? I'd rather you start in the midst of something. Something is happening and this dialogue matches that. And then second, it is worth, especially on this opening scene, brainstorming 5 or 10 different ways to say every single line, because it might make the difference for you. So it's worth it. And then this part, challenging situation. Listen, the whole 2 characters sitting and telling each other their backstories thing, there's no challenge to those characters there. Now, so you have 1 or 2 choices in that situation. I would either say, okay, how can I create a challenging situation? How can I create some kind of conflict that this character's involved in that we're worried about whether they're going to make it through? Or I would say, all right, I love this conversation they're having. Even though they're talking about their backstory, I really think it's important. Now, where could I put that would, the situation itself would make that dialogue more interesting, right? And you've probably seen this before. There's some movies that open and you have 2 characters talking about something, camera pulls out, and suddenly we see they're both in front of a firing squad. And this may be their last moments, right? Or you have 2 characters talking about something and we discover that they're in front of the judge. And this conversation they're having about their backstory is going to make the difference as to whether one owns the company or the other owns the company or whatever, right? So you create a situation around that dialogue that you love, that the situation itself is challenging and it gives us, more reason to worry or to be engaged with those characters. So that's an easy thing to do. Number 2, and this is something I just basically talked about, eliminate generic dialogue all the way through your script, especially with your lead characters, right? And generic dialogue basically means that if any character can say this line, it doesn't belong to your leads. Now, let me pause for a second so that this is really clear. The reason this is important is because as a producer, and my wife and I both were producing before this, when we look at that script, what we're thinking is, hey, let's see, what actor or actress would I be going out to for this project, right? And if there's a bunch of generic lines of dialogue, I can't imagine putting that in front of an actor or an actress. So this becomes important. So this is an easy thing. Listen, you go through your script and you look only at the lead characters all the way through. And anytime you see them saying something that's bland, something that's meaningless, something that any other character could say, you just flag it, right? So if, for instance, let's say you do this and you change 40% of their dialogue and you make it fit who they are as a character, or you make it more interesting or more compelling than the other characters, that might be enough, right? Every line you can improve with your lead characters increases the chance you get a big actor. And that is what gets you funding. That's what gets you distribution. So it is so worth doing this. Now, this might take you a couple hours, but it may improve your script by 30, 40, 50%. So it's worth it. Number 3, replace busy work with meaningful action. And let me tell you what I mean by busy work. Busy work is the character reaches, grabs their bottle of water, and takes a drink, right? A lot of times you'll see this stuff where two characters are talking to each other, and in the description, it'll say one of them takes a bite off of their burger, or they, sip their coffee or something like that. That's all busy work. That's meaningless action. So anytime you can replace busy work with meaningful action, you have a significantly better chance of success. And let me tell you what I mean. You just ask this: what's the meaning of the scene? Right? If you've got two people sitting across from each other, and let's say they're having kind of a heated conversation, and this is the point where they're basically at the point of saying that they hate each other, what's the meaning of the scene? It's these two hate each other. So if I know that's the meaning, question is, how can I show that meaning through the action? Right? Think about the times you've seen a scene where two characters are punching each other, but they're saying nice things. You look great this morning. Boom. What do you believe? Do you believe the words or do you believe the action? Right? It's like, this is an easy way to kind of build in subtext by simply first putting the meaning in the action and then elevating the dialogue so the dialogue is in contrast to the action. It's just kind of a cool thing to be able to do. But at minimum, anytime you find a scene with busy work, I'd just be asking, what's the meaning of the scene? And a lot of times you'll find that in the dialogue, right? One character will tell the other something. Hey, we're going out of business, right? They could do it that way, or they could do it by having, the landlord take their keys away, and they're locked out of their business. So at least you have some kind of action that delivered the meaning, and the audience has a much more emotional reaction to it. Okay. Fourth way, this is an easy way to improve: create a fast read. And let me tell you what I mean by this. This started, I think, about 15 years ago. I was interviewing a whole bunch of producers at Paramount, and with each one, somebody in the audience, one of the writers that was there, we had about 30 writers there. One of them said, well, I'd like to know what scripts they're reading right now. So maybe we could read those scripts and kind of be up on what's going on. So I said, sure, I'll ask them that question. Happy to. So with every producer that came in, and I think we interviewed like 20 in 3 days, I said, let me just ask you, what are you reading right now that you would recommend these writers read? And the first producer says to me, well, you're going to love this one. It's a fast read. And then he gives me the pitch. I was like, okay, yeah, cool. So everybody wrote that down. Second producer comes in and she goes, well, I'm reading a script right now that I think is absolutely amazing, but it's kind of a dense read. So I just want to let you know up front, it's a dense read. And then she gave the pitch. So when we got to the third one, who said, yeah, oh yeah, this is a cool, you'll love this script, it's a fast read. I said, wait a minute, before you even tell us, why do you guys keep telling us whether it's a fast read or a dense read? And he said, well, in this industry, we're reading 10 to 15 scripts a week. And when you're reading that many scripts, a lot of them you try to, while you're making dinner, you try to read the script, or right before you go to bed, you're reading the script, or while you're waiting for a meeting, you're going to read the script. And he said, so what happens is, since you're trying to cram them into all these spots, he said, if it's a dense read, you put that off until you have an hour and a half or 2 hours to read it. If it's a fast read, you can get it done quickly and it makes it easier for the next person. That's why they kept saying, you're going to love this. It's a fast read. Now, take my word for it for right now, but later on, when you start interacting with producers, you'll see they want a fast read. So how do you do that? First, you shorten sentences. You go to staccato writing, right? It's like, car pulls in the driveway, period. He jumps out, period. Kicks the door in, period, right? It's like that kind of stuff you can just read in glances. But if I said that same thing, the Malibu pulls into the driveway and he shuts the car off, shakes his head, thinks about, the issues that he's already had, gets out and walks over to the door. It's like, if you have that kind of writing, and that's just simple stuff, but where it's like you're seeing 5, 6, 7 images in a single sentence, that slows the read down quite a bit. So just take a look. What do you have? Cut out any unnecessary description. We're not novelists here, and maybe you are a novelist. If you're a novelist, write the way you write in novels, but when it comes to screenplays, cut out most of it. We don't need to see everything. We don't need to know everything. We need to look at every scene and know what's the minimum we need to know to be able to get this scene. And that's an important way for you to be able to make sure that your script is a fast read. I'd also be looking, where do you have multiple patches of 4, 5, 6 lines in a row of description? Or where do you have a whole page where the entire page is nothing but description? And I do whatever I can to cut that down and make it as easy as possible for them to get through your script quickly. By the way, getting through your script quickly doesn't mean that they don't get it. What it means is, wow, they had a great time reading it. They loved it. It was done really fast. And I'm talking still 90 pages to 100. And at the same time, they know if they hand this script to anybody else, those people will have that same experience. Having done that, the fast read makes it easy for them to go through it. And your job is then to make it meaningful, interesting, engaging. So now let's talk about some advanced strategies. Strategy number 1, take more risk with your lead characters. We went through a whole thing back in the 90s, early 2000s, where everybody considered the most important thing with their characters to be that they were likable. Likability was the lead. It was the big thing. And that's changed, and that's changed in a big way. And I think mainly it's changed because of television. Television, they've started writing much more intriguing characters. They actually have some characters that you don't like. Like if you've seen the show Succession, it is hard to like those characters. They have, you take the first 5 characters, and all 5 of them are unlikable, especially in the first season. Now, how do they keep us engaged? How do they keep us coming back? And the reason why is because they do some of these other things. They make those characters incredibly intriguing, right? They're so interesting, so compelling, so different, and they give them serious issues so that we are engaged both from a mind perspective, looking for what's beneath the surface on the intrigue, right? And we're emotionally engaged going, oh my God, this character has this crazy thing going on and they're going to mess this up again and again and again. And when you have that kind of situation, you have an audience that is worried about your characters, even if they don't like them. And then this is the other thing. Stop making your characters so nice, especially your lead characters. I would say the way people are thinking in the present moment is a lot of our protagonists right now are the equivalent of what our antagonists were back in early 2000s. They have issues. They have stuff going on under the surface. Sometimes they're lying. Sometimes they're doing the wrong thing. Sometimes they're making a big mistake. Sometimes they're not nice. So be willing to explore this kind of stuff with your lead characters and get us more engaged with them. It really will make a big difference. Strategy 2, elevate the situations. Now, what are situations, right? In fact, here, let's just tell you right now. A situation is the circumstances the character is in. You take, again, the exact same dialogue and you put it in a thing where somebody's telling their best friend, the person they love, and the person who loves and believes in them, they're talking to their best friend and they're sharing something about their past. You take that and we go, yeah, okay, that's nice. That's nice. That's sweet. Put that same thing in a situation where they're on the stand and they're sharing this same thing from their past, and it might get them convicted or it might have them lose the lawsuit, right? And it's like, that's a different situation. That's a situation where we're worried about them, where we're begging them, please don't say that. Please don't tell them that, right? It's like that makes a big, big difference. So the objective is to have challenging situations wherever you can. I would actually go through your, especially I'd be rethinking the talking heads scenes. So if you have talking heads, 2 people talking to each other, and that's the main thing that's happening in that scene, I would look at those and just ask yourself, how can I elevate the situation? How could I make it stronger? How could I make it more engaging? How could I make it scarier? How could I make it have more conflict? All of those, just changing the situation. If you do that in, let's say, half of your talking head scenes, that might be enough to change everything for you. So that kind of stuff is absolutely worth doing. So number 3, make your turning points stronger. And you know what a turning point is, right? A turning point is the end of Act 1, the midpoint, or the end of Act 2. Now, if you take your script and you divide it up this way, you've got about 30 minutes for Act 1. You've got 30 minutes that goes up to the midpoint, and then 30 minutes that goes between midpoint and Act 2. And that translates directly into pages, by the way, 1 minute per page. If every one of these turning points is really strong, it re-engages us for the next 30 minutes. It has us it has us wonder what's going to happen next. It has us wonder how the character is going to deal with it. So a turning point is a major twist, and this is really important, and there's no going back, right? Once the character hits that spot, they can't go back. Their life has changed. They must now deal with it. Now, let me just add something else to this. If you want a stronger turning point, you need a bigger twist. You need it to be more shocking, or make it a bigger life change for that character. And with that, please know, here's what's going to happen if you do this well. At every turning point, the protagonist is forced further and further outside their comfort zone, right? They are forced into the unknown. So we as an audience are watching this character that in Act 1 was very comfortable and reluctant to go on this journey. In the beginning of Act 2, suddenly they are forced out. Suddenly everything has changed, right? They have been locked out of their home, and now they're homeless. Or they have, the police arrested them, and now they're sitting in jail. Or something happens, some kind of major twist that they can't go back on. No matter what they do, it's still that way, and they have to deal with it. Now, so think about this. If at the end of Act 1, you force this character outside their comfort zone, they're going to be acting a little more desperate. They're going to be having to try to solve the problem in a different way, right? They're going to have to look inside and figure out what will make this work. And they'll fail a lot of the times. By the time we hit the midpoint, everything has changed. They're still on the same journey, but the meaning of the journey has changed. Now they're in a land that they have never been. Now we get to the end of Act 2. They're about to go into that final act, and nothing is working in their life, and they've got to go in and fight the biggest fight of their life. So what this does, just in improving the turning points, is it makes every single act stronger and more interesting. Here's the one thing you don't want. You don't want a movie that the first act goes up, and then it gets to that turning point, and then it plateaus all the way across the rest of the script. That's what you don't want. And I'd say half of the scripts submitted to contest, that's exactly how to describe them. So this changes a lot of things for you. And if you're already doing this, congratulations. Then look to see, can you make it even stronger? Can you put a bigger twist at the end of each one of these acts? Can you make them more shocking? Can you make it a bigger life change so that character is no longer in their comfort zone? Strategy 4. More connection to the transformational journey. And this is so important. It's important from a couple of directions, and I'm probably not going to really talk about one of them right now. But first, for the audience member, the more they are connected, the more meaningful this movie is going to be. But second, please know the transformational journey is what producers are using most of the time when a trailer is being created, when the movie trailer is being created. My daughter at one point worked for a movie trailer company for about a year. They did movie trailers for 3 of the big studios. And, I interviewed the producer there, and I talked with her endlessly about all the movies that were coming out that year. 80% of them had the transformational journey as the movie trailer. So that's why this is so important. Now let's talk about it. So what we want to do is you want your audience relating to this transformational journey. So this is about creating a connection, Relatability is important. We need to be able to see there's something similar that's going on there, right? We've been through something like this, but never as bad as what they have. Or maybe we have similar goals to this character or similar needs that this character has. At the same time, that journey should be something that we have a desire to go on, or we want that character to go on so we can see what happens in their life. And then be great to have as much empathy built into that transformational journey as possible, right? Empathy means we feel their pain. So putting the character in a distressful situation has us feel for them. Now, all of these come together to do this. We as the audience should be able to look on the screen and say, that's me, right? And think about how many times you've gone in and watched a movie and you said, that's me on the screen. And this isn't about whether you're a man or a woman or what race you are or any of those kinds of things, because we've watched, cartoons before and said this stuff. We watch Avatar, and I'm sorry, I can't fly. I can't do the things that some of those characters could do, but I related to them and I felt connected to them. I was watching a movie the other day. I was watching the movie Arrival. And if you've seen that movie, by the way, it's a worthwhile movie to watch. I love how they did this interesting thing where they took a woman who was from the academic world and put her in a military situation where she had to discover the language of an alien. I watched it 3 times to ask myself, where did I identify with her? And I think I identified with her in the second scene. My wife identified with her in the first scene. I identified with her in the second scene. And from that point on, I was her. I was going through her journey. I was worried about her. I was trying to figure out that alien language with her, right? It was like that whole thing from start to finish to me was, that's me on the screen. That's what you want as a writer. You want your audience to be feeling, thinking, and living your protagonist's journey. So, number 5, start with a great pitch. I've worked with thousands of writers who have said this one sentence to me. It's a question, actually. They'll say, well, I've got the script done. Now, how do I pitch it? And what that means is they didn't start with a pitch. They had no idea how to pitch it. They started with an idea popped into their mind, and then they began writing. And it's like, it's totally okay. That's how I did my first 3 scripts. It was just idea. And it wasn't until I actually went in and pitched at about 20 production companies with one of those scripts that I stood back and went, wait a minute, I need to get this pitch done a little faster. I need to figure this pitch out before I get in those doors. And then I interviewed some A-list screenwriters, and I heard a whole different story. So I was talking with one writer who has written 9 scripts, and 8 of them have been produced and are movies. Most of them are in the $15 to $30 million range. And I said, wow, 8 of your 9 scripts have been produced. That's incredible. How did you do that? And he said, well, he says, the script that I failed on was one, he had already knew some people in the industry. He had worked in production. And so he decided he was going to do this. He said he wrote the script. He had not figured out his pitch. When he got to the end of it, he went and pitched it to a whole bunch of different producers, and they all said no. And at the end of that, he said, it dawned on me, what if I knew in advance whether or not this was going to sell? Would I have a better chance of making it happen? So after that, he started creating the pitch first. Now, by the way, That changed my life. From that point on, when I interviewed that guy, at the end of that, I interviewed him in front of an audience of about 40 of our alumni writers. At the end of that, I went back to the entire alumni and I said, from now on, everything you write, you create a pitch first. And creating the pitch first, you'll be able to tell, can I pitch it? Right? And if you can pitch it and people light up and they're excited about it, you're in business. Write that script. And if you pitch it to people and they're like, oh yeah, we saw that, that was another movie, then you rethink the pitch. And it makes it a lot easier. And so back to the guy I was talking about, his name was Mark Roseman. Mark said, he said sometimes he'll come up with pitches and he thinks they're really good. He'll wait about 3 days, come back and look at them when the emotion isn't there. And then he decides if he's got a great pitch. He said sometimes he'll, if it's on the fence, he'll take it out and pitch it to some of his friends and see how they react. Do they light up? Do they get excited? Do they want to hear the story? If so, then he says, all right, this is something I can write. And it makes a difference. So here, let me just talk with you about the pitch. A great pitch guides your decisions as you write. And that was something I hadn't thought of before also. You know what? Once you know that pitch, that's going to tell you a lot of things, and it's going to help you figure out your structure and help you figure out your lead characters. It's going to help you make sure that the script delivers on that so that it gets read by the industry, right? So here's the easiest version. What's your genre, title, and high concept? And as you're thinking about that, let's just talk about genre for a second. When I pitch to producers, and this came from, we were at a pitch fest. We had 300 producers in the room, a whole bunch of writers there. I think there were at least 300 writers there. And I went and talked to a bunch of those producers about what they wanted to hear and how soon they wanted to hear it. And they said, these three are the most important things that they're listening for. So if they don't know what your genre is early on, they're going to be going, the whole time they're going to be trying to figure it out, or they may be reacting differently. Like I had one writer who pitched something and I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. That's going to be an amazing comedy. And he was totally insulted. He goes, Hal, it's not a comedy. It's a drama. And it's like, well, he should have told me that up front. And I told him right then, I said, make sure you say that to producers if you're pitching, because then they won't be looking at the comedy genre conventions. They'll be thinking about the drama genre conventions. Okay, let's talk about what a high concept is, because some people don't know. That's your big picture hook, right? That the high concept is you essentially can say this thing in a single sentence, and it's the biggest hook of the story. That's really important. It's the thing that will sell your movie to audiences in a 15-second Instagram spot. So that's really important to them. So if you're pitching, by the way, your pitch, you're going to have a big picture hook. What's that high concept? And a few sentences about how that'll play out. And that makes it pretty easy. Then from there, then you go to a short synopsis that basically has us see that this script will sell. Now, by the way, don't tell them that it'll sell. Don't tell them that it'll be a bestseller, or that it'll be a, that it'll win Academy Awards or Blockbuster or any of those kinds of things. What this short synopsis is about is, what is it that makes your script unique and interesting and compelling, right? And if you've got that, then you're in pretty good shape. I just add this, a cool version of the transformational journey, right? So this is your great pitch that you create before you write the screenplay. You already know, right? You know what the genre is, so everything's going to come from there. You know, you have, at least have an idea of a title, and if you don't have a great title yet, that's all right. You can brainstorm that anytime. You know what the high concept is, the essentially 15-second pitch. You have at least an idea of how this story will play out. Maybe you've listed the structure or something like that. You have a short synopsis and a cool version of the transformational journey. So it's not just, you know, the character arc thing that we always hear, which is the character begins as somebody who is sad and by the end they're happy, right? What do you know about that? I mean, can you see that story? You know, so it's like, it should be something that when you tell us this transformational journey, we go, oh, wow, that would be amazing to watch. Now, you have that, and suddenly we're in a different place, right? You're coming into writing this script and you're writing it after being informed on all of this. You already know that transformational journey. You know that high concept. You know what genre you're writing in. This pitch makes it easier for you to write something that has a chance of selling. Now, let's go back to this for a moment. And let me just point to a couple of things. When you're evolving as a screenwriter, there are things that are happening along the way. And here's one of the biggest and most important, and that's right over here, which is elevating your skills. You need to know at every level, there's another set of skills to get to the next level. And I think, again, I think a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people who write 2 or 3 scripts, they figure out how to create characters, and then they just plateau. And every script from that point on is pretty much at that quality level. If you want to keep moving up, you keep elevating those skills. And I'll tell you, I've interviewed over 100 A-list screenwriters, and the way they talk about screenwriting, the way they think about screenwriting, and the skills they use are much higher than people who are not winning contests. So I want you to know that. And by the way, they're actually much higher than people who are winning contests. But it's like the job is to keep elevating those skills. And then with that, as you're elevating your skills, then it's about just taking the action, right? Which is all the way across here. So that you go from where you are to where you want to be. In both cases, you keep taking action. What's the next action? And the next action might be pitching your script. It might be meeting more producers. It might be taking a class. It might be getting feedback. There's a whole bunch of things. But the further you're going to get across here, the more that action is going to be about connecting with people inside the industry and making things happen. So for that, you need to be an amazing writer. Now, stay with me for about 5 minutes. This is what you're really looking to be able to accomplish, to write incredible movies. And by the way, this is our most up-to-date program. It is the one that is all about exactly what they're looking for in the industry right this moment, but it's about what does it take for you to be that writer, to be so good that any producer that sees your writing just goes, oh my God, this person belongs in the industry. So let me walk you through it, and then I'll give you a special that I think will make a big difference for you. So here we go. First thing, we're going to do exactly what we just talked about. Module 1 is all about crafting the pitch that can sell. So before you even start writing, you already know that you have something that has a real chance. Second, then it's about making these big picture decisions in a way that delivers on that pitch, right? So this is about things like your structure. Does your structure deliver on your pitch, right? The character journey, does it deliver on your pitch? So you'll be making these big picture decisions. Then it'll be about creating characters that will attract actors. Now, most people don't think about this. They're really thinking, do I love my characters? But When we started talking with actors production companies, and this was about 8 years ago, I interviewed 32 different actors production companies to find out what will attract actors. How do we write those characters specifically for this? And by the way, how do you design it so that if they even read their character introduction, they say yes to wanting to work in your movie? And we've got the model for that. Module 4 then is about making your outline incredible. If you don't have an incredible script right now, it's because you didn't create an incredible outline. And this class, when you get to this one, it'll change how you write. You will be able to double or triple the quality of any script you write just from creating a multi-layered outline that when you read it, you'll go, oh my God, this story is amazing from the beginning. Module 5, then now you're writing your first draft. And here we're going to give you a high-speed writing model that came from me talking with pros who can triple their speed when they need to. So whatever speed you write at right now, once you learn this model, and you'll use it all the way through your first draft so that you master it, once you learn this model, you'll be able to turn up that speed at any time. You'll be able to go to 3 times the speed you normally write and create whenever you're at deadlines, whenever somebody needs something now, whenever you just want to get through that first draft so you can get to the other parts. Module 6 then is about doing something really smart. A lot of times people write their first draft and then they start editing. And what that does is it locks in all the deeper problems. So what we did here was we went through, and in your second draft, our objective is to have a problem-free script. So I made a list of all the problems that show up in second drafts, and I'm talking deep problems, structural problems, journey problems, character problems, scene problems, and we're giving you a whole series of solutions for each one of those. So you will go through and identify every one of those problems in your script and just flag them. You'll go back to our list. Let's say you have a structure problem and it's the midpoint. You'll go to that part, click the button, and it'll give you the solution. And you apply that solution immediately. So by the end of the second draft, you have a problem-free script. This already puts you in the top 95% of scripts coming into town. Most scripts, even if they've been edited 20 times, still have problems under the surface. Then, once you have a problem-free script, draft number 3 is all about doubling the quality. So we're going to give you some quality elevation processes for character, structure, scenes, so that you can make every one of those the best it can possibly be. Now then, in draft 4, module 8, we're going to focus on amazing dialogue. So at this point, you've got everything working, you've doubled the quality. Now you're going to go back to that dialogue, and we're going to give you a whole series of different techniques so that you can take any line, rewrite it 5, 10 different ways, pick the best one, put it back in the script. Now listen, if you've never done this before, and as soon as you do it, you'll stand back and go, oh my God, I just really doubled or tripled the quality of the read and increased the chance that actors will sign on just because this dialogue got so much better. And then module 9, now finally, we're going to go to wordsmithing. And this is the kind of editing that everybody likes to do earlier. I'm going to encourage you to wait till this point. Once you've got all of this other stuff done, you have an incredible script already, and all you need to do is just go through and make the words perfect at that point. And we'll give you an easy model to be able to do that. That finally brings us to module 10. And here we're going to give you the 4 great pitches that you need. And let me tell you, these came from producers. What most people do is they pitch like a writer. And that means they're trying to tell their story and they're trying to put as much detail as they can in it. What I did was, after I noticed that that wasn't working for people, I went and interviewed about 200 producers about how they pitch. And it changed everything for us. That was when our writers started making deals left and right. And here what we have is the 4 great pitches that you need. It's not one pitch, it's 4. You're still pitching the same script, but if you're in one of those situations where you only have 15 seconds, how would you pitch it there, right? Versus on the other side of it, let's say you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. Maybe you're doing one of the Zoom pitches. Maybe you're meeting a producer in person. Well, you're going to pitch that in a very, very different way. So there are 4 specific pitches that include the elevator pitch, the 30-second pitch, the phone pitch, the query letter that you or leave behind, and the kind of pitch that you would do at a pitch fest, a Zoom meeting, or if you were face-to-face. And each one of those has certain qualities, certain things that once you master that, every time you do this, you will create the 4 pitches at the end. And if you run into some producer, or if you make a phone call, or if you interact with them in some other way at an event or something like that, you know exactly what to do, and what you say makes you look like a total pro. Now, this class normally is $12.99. It actually is starting a month from now, May 1st, and that will give you enough time to be able to brainstorm some concepts. As soon as you sign up, I'm going to send you a pre-lesson that is all about how do you brainstorm high concepts. And it'll give you simple ways to do that. You can brainstorm for the next 3 to 4 weeks and come in with the concept that you like the best. Take that through the program. The normal price, again, $12.99. Here's the special. And this is for the first 20 people that sign up. You guys know how our systems work. If you're going to do the payment plan, the special on that is $111 a month for the next 7 months. Now, what that means basically is about $4 a day for you to become an incredible writer. The total on that, it's $111 a month. The total on that's $777. That saves you a little over $500. If you want to pay it off in a one-time payment, then in that case, you can get in for $729. That saves you $570. What I promise you on this program is that every single day you're going to learn something new. Every day there's something in there that's going to make a difference. I also promise you that you're going to get the kind of skills that will set you apart from 98% of screenwriters coming into this industry. You will understand and know things that most of them have been missing, no matter how many scripts they've written. And the reason why is because we did the work here. I had a development team that worked on this for 3 years. We interviewed about 200 producers during the time we were creating this. We talked with 50 managers during that period of time to find out exactly what needs to be there right now for you to be able to break into this industry. So if this is something that's appealing to you, if you really do want to give yourself a chance, come join us. Just click one of those links, or if they're not clickable, write it down, go into your browser where you normally put in a web address, put that address in. So it'd be bit.ly/WIM-payments. WIM is in Writing Incredible Movies, or bit.ly/SU-WIM. Just put that in the browser where you normally put a web address in, click return, and go through the sign up process. As soon as you do, within about 15 minutes afterwards, we'll get you that first lesson and you can start brainstorming concepts. But having said that, going through this process, this program, will at minimum double the quality of your writing. And for many people, it will multiply it times 3 or 4. Our objective is to be able to have you be somebody who understands enough so you really have a chance in this industry. So with that, let me just close it with one question. What would happen if you joined us, went through this process, and as a result of that, found yourself on the other side with writing that was better than you ever believed was possible for you, and you really did have a chance? Would that be worth just taking these simple steps? So this is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U. I'm looking forward to working with you. Bye-bye, everyone.